Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. I'm Chris Gunn and joining my co-host for today, George Aldridge. And today is our Game of Thrones discussion show. You may notice a distinct lack of Tate. That's because he's absolutely living the dream in Italy right now. But we're going to hold the fort on this one. We've got a lot to talk about. Gearing up to the series finale very, very soon of Game of Thrones. This is episode 8. This is No One. And I think we're just going to jump straight into it. But first, spoiler alert, major spoiler alert. If you're new to this series, we go through absolutely everything in the episode, pick it to pieces. So if you haven't seen the episode and you want to see it, please do watch it first and then come back to us because we are just going to spoil everything in this episode. As always, we work our way geographically from the northernmost point of the map in the episode to the southernmost point. So I think we're skipping out the north. We're skipping out the wall. Didn't feature in this episode at all. That'll be next week. We are kicking off at Riverrun with Sandor Clegane. So George, I'm going to let you jump in on this one first. Sandor Clegane is back. What did you think to his opening scene in this episode?
I was there watching it. Normally I watch it too, but I watched it in the morning. I was so happy I did because I could just see him coming in the background. Like, phone up, just started recording it. And it's when he just comes out. I think he beheads the first one.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And then I was just there, like, I explained it to my mate who was like asleep. It was like, wake up. That's what the quote was. And it was fucking brilliant. And then what I love about the Hound is just how he's so normal, and he's there like, is that your final words? Like, fuck or something. He's like, you're really shit at dying.
Yeah.
He was as great as he always is, and it was so nice just to see him go on a rampage once more, because there's really, I mean, the Mountain's brutal, the Mountain's the Mountain, and he is a Clegane. But I think I've just always preferred the Hound's way of dealing with life. It's just his general vocabulary on top of the violence. He's just great. And I missed him. I'm so happy he's back.
Well, he's definitely more human, isn't he? I guess, although they're still brutal as hell. And both Clegane brothers probably got the most brutal deaths. Well, like who they killed got the most brutal deaths of the whole series, I would say. I was loving it, though. I was just laughing like hell. And the Hound, you're right. The fans love him so much. He's one of my favourite characters. He always has been. Top 3 easily. And you're right, that scene where they're chatting, and whenever Game of Thrones starts off with like a pointless conversation, you know something bad's going to happen straight after. And you're right, you see his silhouette approaching. I think he beheads the other guy, and then he just like straight up like American Psychos the other guy, doesn't he? It was absolutely insane, great to watch. And the thing is how he's playing it, though. I don't know the name of the actor, and I really want to. I know he was in Hot Fuzz. He's fantastic.
Rory McCann, I think.
That's the one, yeah. His acting has just got so much better with his character. Not that it was ever bad, but just his characters get so much more to do now. I'm so glad he's back. When I read the book, I was really against the idea that he comes back because I liked his send-off, how Arya shows her brutality where she doesn't kill him but just leaves him. But I'm totally cool with him coming back. And then we pretty much leave him until towards the end of the episode where he finds the Brotherhood without banners. I think me and Tate initially predicted this wrong because we thought that at this point the Brotherhood will be run by someone more brutal, Lady Stoneheart. Yeah, but Beric Dondarrion is still running them.
What it does, this episode, we'll go into more details later, but it's kind of quashed the 3 maybe biggest fan theories that I've seen around. Not Snow Targaryen. We'll find out soon, very on that. But I never thought they'd do Lady Stoneheart because I think it had been too late to introduce it. And then it got to the point where she's famous for hanging people, but they had the others doing it. I thought, okay, done and dusted. They've overtook the books now, clearly. They're not going to use her. They're going to do something with the Hound. And he now seems to be going north to the wall, maybe. I really hope he doesn't, but that's what they're hinting at.
I don't know. Did they mention them travelling anywhere? I thought he just says like there's more for you to do, Clegane, or something. You can still do good in this world.
He basically said that there's people. He basically said the White Walkers are coming and we've got to do something. So that was a hint they're going up north to me, unless they're going to charge down south and try and escape. But it was a really well done scene because when them 3 blokes from the Brotherhood were killing people, we like, for fuck's sake, you liked the Brotherhood, and then they've kind of betrayed them. And it was a good way to reintroduce them, I thought. And especially with the chemistry where obviously they did the fight last time. And then, the Hound was there like me of a year or 2 ago. I would have killed all of you to kill these 3 people and this and that. So it's great character development. It was kind of cool to see him though. I did enjoy it.
I couldn't shake Tate's theory out of my head though from last week. The one where he said that Sandor Clegane might be the Lord of Light, like not Jon Snow. Born of Fire, because his face was pressed into the flames. Will fight with a flaming sword. Thoros of Myr has a flaming sword, so maybe you'll pass it to him. And you know, he was sort of like indoctrinated into the Seven now, so he has that you know, the Lord of Light thing going for him. I don't know, but that theory was just in my head through this whole episode, where he was talking with Thoros of Myr and he was saying there's a lot more for you to still do. And now you're said that they might go to the wall and defeat some White Walkers. It's pointing towards that he might actually be the Lord of Light, which is a theory I never thought would come true. They did kind of reintroduce Thoros of Myr and Beric Dondarrion in a very sort of unhyped way, like they were just there. We haven't seen these characters in Series 3, and it's just like, there are the characters, and you just... I mean, casual fans of this show, I think, would be really confused, like not caught up, especially if they haven't seen a previously on Game of Thrones or they haven't remembered stuff from previous series, because I think this series is a bit flippant with the way it introduces a lot of people. I'm really good with like remembering stuff like that and like little characters and lines, and there's quite a few lines in this one, especially one with Tyrion, which we'll get to later, which is a throwback to a line he says in Series 1, which was amazing. But I don't know, it's just kind of weird, like there was no big grand introduction from him again. He just sort of walks into the camp and they're there ready to hang the guys for what they did. So I don't know if that's a bit weird for some people.
Yeah, you're right about the casuals, because they might have even forgot. I mean, I didn't forget because it was pretty memorable, but it's very easy. I mean, I forgot who the Blackfish was like 2-3 weeks ago, didn't I? And there's so many characters. It's so easy to forget about people or certain things that have happened, especially when you don't get the previously on Game of Thrones bits before when you watch it online. But you're right about the quotes. There's a Lannister quote that comes up later on that's very memorable from the pilot. Well, not pilot, but episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
It was a cool introduction, and I'm interested, because what I love about the show is just how they match up the people. So you've had Jaime and Bren before, with the Hound and Arya. The way they've always just had these two clash of interests, and now they've got obviously the Hound with the Brotherhood of Banners. How long that's what we don't know, but they tend to work as well, I think, when they pair them up. So I'm interested for the future, and I hope we still see more of him in episode 10, because we need to.
I don't think that Beric Dondarrion is going to be in this for much longer. I think that they might be grooming Sandor Clegane to become leader of the Brotherhood. I don't really know where that storyline's going, but there's a lot of promises. This episode, more than any, if we're going to go into like really initial opinions before we carry on with the rest, I like this episode. It definitely wasn't one of my favourites. It does a lot of interesting stuff, but I think where I fall on this episode is that it builds up a lot of stuff before this, and then this one, as you said, kind of shoots a lot of the stuff down, or characters just kind of end in a really anticlimactic way. And I really hope they don't do that with Sandor Clegane. Like, when we get to the final series, I hope they've got a plan. I hope every character gets a decent send-off, and it's not just all lost along the way. But so that's most of the stuff in River Run, but now we're going to move into the big bulk of stuff that happens in River Run, which is the Jaime Lannister stuff. Try to get the Blackfish to surrender River Run. This was the stuff I always wanted to see in Series 5. Series 5, he went on a pointless errand to Dawn with Bronn, and in hindsight, with what they've done with that storyline, they may as well have just cut that out completely and devoted time elsewhere. This was awesome, though. This is like military tactician Jaime Lannister. And for all those that say like how much they love the character, he's one of my favourite characters as well. I think his redemption was told really, really well. He kind of regresses back to his old self in this one. And that's kind of what you were saying just a minute ago, where there's a line that he repeats from Series 1. And that kind of shows us that really harsh, uncompromising side to Jaime Lannister. But I like that. I like that his character isn't clear-cut good even at this point 6 seasons in. Like, he's come all this way and we like him. But then there's these moments where you go, okay, no, this is a bad guy, kind of. He's just got his own agenda. He's going to do what he has to do to get back to the woman he loves.
I loved his monologue. I know that's sort of jumping the barrel. But you see that vicious side to him you haven't seen in a long time. I mean, yeah, okay, he did rape his sister / partner next to his
that was weird
nephew's corpse.
That shouldn't have been a rape scene in the book. That's totally consensual. That was the showrunners fucking up on that one.
But with this one, it was I thought it was a really well done scene because you get a bit of character development of Edmure as well. And you kind of see it, but Jaime's so vicious, and it's the fact he repeats the what's the quote when he pushed Bran out the window? The things we do for
the things I do for love.
And it was really cool to see him back. Like, I just want to get back. And in Game of Thrones, you'd think that's them signaling their death call, but in this, I think he genuinely might go back for episode 10, maybe. I mean, in the earlier seasons you go back, the longer it takes them to travel, and the more present we are, the quicker time travel has been invented. Not time travel, but they've got like teleporters in Game of Thrones these days where they can get anywhere within any time, and considering what it took season 1 a few episodes for them to get from King's Landing to Winterfell.
I was gonna say, we're not really made privy to how much time passes between episodes. Like, they could have been camped outside of this place for months. Like, Blackfish, the last episode, said he's got enough supplies for his men to last there for like 2 years. He says to Lannisters, "Have you got that long?" Well, we don't know. Like, they could have been here for months. We have no idea how long they've been here. But you're right with Edmure. Like, we got him in a couple of episodes in series 3, and then we had the Red Wedding, and we haven't seen him since then. So we keep forgetting that this character has been in a jail cell pretty much the entire span of time since then, up until this point. And I liked all the callbacks to series 2 with Jaime Lannister being a prisoner and how he talks about Catelyn Stark. And, I think he says in that series as well, series 2, that he admires her. But you're not really sure whether you believe him at that point. Like, it might be just like a smarmy line that he's saying to her. But I think in this point, when he reinforces it, I think he is being genuine when he says that. Like, he sees that correlation between Catelyn Stark and his sister. And he even says that in this episode. And I love that Jaime just doesn't give a fuck. Like, he says that, "I love my sister." And he says, like, you might jeer at that. You might do a snarky comment about that. But I don't care. Like, I could go into there and kill everyone and I wouldn't care. They're nothing to me. I could kill you. You're nothing to me. The only person that matters is Cersei. I thought they were going to do something with that, which is similar to the book where Edmure says that she's been unfaithful to him on many occasions, like she's just using him, and that was going to make him change his mind. Because I really wasn't sure at that point, especially when Edmure says, like, how do you sleep at night? Like, aren't you a good, decent guy? And we see this expression, and I think Nicholas Coster-Waldau plays it so well. And there was a moment where I was thinking, is he going to give up? Like, is he just going to go against the Lannisters, go against his sister, and do what's right for him and say, keep the place, have Edmure back, we're leaving? But he totally doesn't do that. And through his words, through that monologue, we see how conniving Jaime is and how powerful he is to get Edmure to go back into River Run and basically fuck up the entire operation that Blackfish was trying to carry out.
And this is a year operation. I mean, this was hinted at the end of last season, wasn't it? At the end, I remember. But built up, his build with the Sansa. And it was typical Game of Thrones that when Bren came in, she says, he gave me this. There's this moment where you think, oh shit, the Blackfish is going to align with her. Like, and then it was straight, no, goodbye. And he was great. He's so stubborn. I really liked it. But it was quite a powerful moment because it was when Blackfish is like, you're going to fuck us up if you let him in, all this, that. And Edmure, I thought, was going to maybe stab him or chop open the gate himself, but he's so dead inside. And what I really liked for his character is that although he says he's never met his kid or anything, he did it as a father, everything, or he wouldn't have. And I want to see, not necessarily more, but I want to see the outcomes of it, because the one thing I don't like, which I spoke to you about just before, was that the Blackfish was, oh yeah, bring him to me. No, we killed him. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Didn't even, at least when, I forgot his name, the incredible teacher.
Sirio Farrell. Yeah, I was thinking of that.
At least there was audio and something, whereas he literally just walked up some stairs and they cut away to his death.
That worked, though. That's exactly like the book. Like, it's left ambiguous whether he did actually die or not. We needed a farewell of this guy. It was like Stannis for me.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest one for me. I will never forgive them for what they did to Stannis that season. Especially, like, if they were going to kill him off, I'd be against that, because I know it's completely different to how his character is in the book and what's setting up for him with that. But when you've got a character that big, and even the Blackfish, like, I'd say the Blackfish is a character big enough to have his own death scene on screen. But when he's I did think there was a bit missing with that episode. We'll sort of go back in a minute and talk about when Brienne first comes into the camp, because there's a lot of good character interaction there that I want to talk about. But when we cut into the castle, Edmure's gone in. He has that awesome look of just hatefulness towards Blackfish, because there's no love lost between them two. And then sort of when the Lannisters march in, we cut and Brienne is in a rowboat with Pod, and it felt like I'd missed something. Like, I thought she'd gone to the castle, she'd deliver the terms, and then she'd come back out to the camp.
Yeah.
But I guess they kept her in the castle, and I was really weird. I was like, how has she got this rowboat? How has she got here? How does the Blackfish know she's here? Is he cool with her leaving? There was just all these questions I had, and then it was just like, oh, pointless anyway, because Blackfish has just died. I think Blackfish needed some kind of Boromir-style death, and I always go to that as my favourite death in any film ever. Just against the odds. He knows he's not going to make it, but he takes that sword, he gives it a good go at it, and he just gets cut down. I think we needed that, and you're right, when that Lannister guard just comes and says, like, oh, we found the Blackfish. Great, where is he? Oh, he's dead. It felt like we have all this awesome setup for a payoff that's just not there. And that's the same with another character for me in this one, kind of. So it was a weird episode for me. I was really let down by how that all panned out. And you're right, I hope that in episode 10, we do get a decent amount of screen time dedicated to the fallout of this, because I don't think that with this storyline and how much time is spent with it and all the characters they've brought back, I don't think you can just leave it after this episode. You can't just say, all the Lannisters have got it back now. Like, what about Edmure? Does he get back to his wife? Does he get back to his child? What's it like with the Freys now? There's still so many questions that need answering. We need to talk about, though, with this scene, we need to talk about how awesome the scene was with Bronn and Pod. Bronn coming back this season is amazing. He hasn't been in it much, but he's kind of a character now where I think he works better in small doses, like a sort of cameo character, like a recurring character. And I'd forgotten how long it's been that he's seen Pod. I think it was in the episode where Pod goes to the jail cell, doesn't he, when Tyrion's on trial? I think that was the last time he saw Tyrion, and then he had to leave because his safety was compromised. And they're back together, and just how he's like teaching him to fight, and like dirty tactics with fighting, that was amazing. I loved that. What did you think to Bronn and Pod scene?
I love seeing Bronn. Every time it's just like season 1 of when the guy fell out of the moon tower. Was like, well, he wasn't, he fought with honor, and he's always been great. So, and I think you're right. I think he served his main purpose to the show. So having the smaller doses is really helping his character for when you see him again, because he's not something you get tired of, but they're such memorable, the scenes he does and everything he does do. And it was just when he just punched him square in the face, and Pod's like, okay. And I love it when shows reference age in a weird way of it. I remember one of the weirdest scenes of Harry Potter I ever saw when Dumbledore was like, you need a shave. I know this is completely off topic, but it's acknowledging that time passes, and I like it when these franchises and when these stuff do it. And it was just great to have, all you wanted was kind of Tyrion back with those two as like a sort of... I hope we get it. I hope we get the dream team back together towards the end. But it was great to see Pod actually have dialogue as well, because I remember you guys, I don't think he's spoken like 4 episodes. He's been in the background the whole time.
Yeah, he's been a real background character this series. It's weird.
It was a great scene, I thought, and it was just I love seeing Bronn. If they ever kill him, it's going to be devastating. But you just know.
Oh, no.
It'd be hilarious.
I don't think they will. He's an absolute gem to this series. If they get rid of him, I'll be devastated. But again, they've done some changes from the book that I haven't been happy about. You know that. I talk about it every episode, but this is one example of one change I like, because Bronn in the book, the last time we see him, I can see why it's his last appearance in the book, and that I thought they were going to do that with the series and kind of give him a tragic farewell. It's where Tyrion asks for him, and he says, like, oh, he's been married off to a highborn now, he's got a castle, he's off doing that now. And it was kind of tragic, like how you thought he was Tyrion's friend, and now he's got what he was asked for and what got bargained to him. He's sort of started off, but I actually think this is a really good change how they brought this character back. We've kind of talked about the Brienne stuff, but I really like that too. Brienne and Jaime's relationship in the books is one of my favourite things out of the entire series. Thought it was brilliantly handled in the TV show as well. Series 3 for those two characters was probably the strongest point in the whole series for me. Just how Jaime changed and how the two grew together and built this friendship towards the end. And it was nice to see it again. This series is all about reuniting characters and pairings we've seen before, recalling lines from other series and moments. And Brienne meeting Jaime again, and you're right, that bit with the sword where he's like, you know where it was going to go. You could almost write that scene in your sleep saying like, no, it's yours, keep it. But it all built up to that moment at the end where she's in the rowboat and he's looking at her from the castle and they wave. I actually didn't expect her to wave. Like, I thought she'd be really pissed off at him for the Lannisters just like murdering everyone. But
well, I don't think they murdered any of Tully's people though.
Well, they killed the Blackfish, right?
They killed the Blackfish, but everyone else laid down their weapons, didn't they?
Oh, that's yeah. But even so, like she wanted that castle for Sansa. She needed the people for Sansa, and when she that was a great scene as well, where she kind of stands toe to toe next to the Blackfish, and he's just being a stubborn dick, and she's just like, "Look, I'm going to lay this out. This is what happened. Jaime Lannister did all this for us. We need the men here." And I thought he was going to come round after that and maybe, surrender the castle himself. But no, it was really weird that she waved to him. Like, it makes sense. Like, I think it may have been a bit more poetic if they just kind of stared at each other and you didn't really know what each of them thought. Now, in the book, I mentioned this last time, Brienne runs into Lady Stoneheart and she says that you've betrayed me, you swore an oath to me. Now, to repay for it, you've got to go and kill the Kingslayer. Do you think that Brienne at some point will have to go back to Jaime?
Yeah.
Or something?
I think something's going to happen. The way they kind of said, "I hope you don't meet this way," or whatever it is, that indicates to me they're gonna cross the swords at some point, and they're gonna have to, or Brienne will watch him die. Have to watch him.
Well, me and you both agree. I think that Jaime is going to go at some point. Like, I've always thought that in the book, and kind of where that ended and where it's set up, what Brienne's got to do. I do think that's going to happen in the books. And I still think it's going to happen in the show, but every opportunity I think it's going to happen, it doesn't. So, man, that's going to be harsh to watch because I love Jaime Lannister. But I think however he dies, it will have something to do with Brienne. Whether she kills him herself, and they'll have like a moment where he's dying in her arms and he says, like, this was necessary, like, you've kept your oath. It'll be something like that. I don't want it to happen, but I'm just trying to think what excuse Brienne would have to go back to Jaime Lannister. Like, is he staying here now? Is he staying garrisoned at River Run? Or now that he's took it, will he leave some of his men there, then go back to Cersei? And with all this High Septon stuff going on, I really don't know. But that'll be sad if that does happen, because I don't want that to happen. Shall we move to King's Landing? Have we said everything you want on River Run?
Yeah, let's move down.
Right, King's Landing. You go for this one. I will just say, though, Clegane's kill was amazing. Oh, my God. I did not expect it. We saw it on the picture. I think Tate predicted it as well, where a picture came out with Gregor Clegane's armor, and it was dented. And he was saying that he thought that one of the militants was going to strike at him. And he did. And, oh, boy, blood flew everywhere. So if you want to go into that stuff, and then we'll get into the King's Landing stuff.
So basically, I was watching this morning, and Tate said ages ago, "Oh yeah, if you look at this still, you can see that there's like their little baseball bat spike things in it." I was like, I've waited all season for this now. I've been waiting to see the mountain do something, and basically, it finally happened. It was just that when they're all standing outside, like, okay, the mountain's going to be let rip this time. It's like, you're going to come. She goes, "No, I'm staying in. I choose violence." That's their trailer quote for this year. And the one guy that just smacked him, it was within like half a second of regret. And
yeah.
It was so funny because you knew he was screwed after. All he did was pick him up and choke him. I was like, oh no, that's so... Choking is boring. I've seen this in Star Wars. I've seen it everywhere. Why have you...
It really reminded me of Darth Vader as well in that moment.
And then he went over to his body and ripped his skull and spine straight from it.
It was like a Mortal Kombat moment.
It was the fatalities of the recent one. And I stood there like, I've had my breakfast today. Like, look, and I was like, about time because it's the mountain and he has to be doing mountain things, and it's just the way that everyone just backed off, and that
in the throne room, that was so cool.
it was just following orders.
I love the makeup they've done on his eyes. Like when, like you don't get a really clear look at it, but when people are up close, you can kind of see it faded through like his pale face with like these purple zombie eyes. It's so, and you're right. When he picks him up with a throat, I was thinking like he's going to choke him. He's going to like snap his neck or something, or like just crush his neck. And then he throws him, and I was like, oh, he's doing like a Terminator thing where they're ordered to kill, and they just kind of throw him around a bit pointlessly. But I did not expect that fatality moment. I couldn't even tell what he did. Like I didn't know he ripped his spine out. I thought he like picked him up by the jaw and like ripped the top of his head off, and then I thought, well, did he rip his whole head off? Now you're saying he ripped his spinal cord out as well.
I saw his spine come out. I'm
going to have to rewatch that bit again. I did not pick up on that, but if that happened, that's even more awesome. Okay, let's get into the bit that most people are talking about with this episode, and that's with King Tommen. You know what? I've stuck up for this guy. He's a naive little kid. He's having all these people whispering in his ear what he's got to do because he's king and he's young and impressionable. What he did today is almost unforgivable. One of the most hyped up, greatest book theories, and then that's kind of migrated from Reddit into show theories. Clegane Bowl. Everyone's heard about it. Everyone's hyped for it. It's the fight of the century, not counting Battle of the Bastards next week. Everyone's looking forward to this moment. And you know what? Tate predicted this, and it's a shame we haven't got him on this episode, because I'm sure if he was on for this, he would have like a whole slew of other theories and stuff and predictions for next series, and they'd probably all come true, because everything he says seems to come true.
It's happening.
Go on, sorry.
Right. I watched it this morning. Since I've always wanted Clegane Bowl, and since I don't think Tate's read the books, and I don't think
he's on like book 2 at the minute, I think.
His knowledge of them, of the show, I'd say, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
One that hasn't read the books. And he's so spot on. It is because of Reddit. So Tate, if you're listening, I know it's because of Reddit. You gave me hope. Every single person that I've spoken to recently, I've been like, Clegane Bowl, Clegane Bowl, Clegane Bowl. Literally like the you know, the Tyrion one.
Yeah.
I've been like shouting Clegane Bowl. I've got people that are like seasons behind. I've been buzzing about Clegane Bowl. I'm getting excited now. And
that picture you sent as well from last week with Santa Clegane holding the little porcelain bowl. It's like Clegane.
Yeah, I saw that meme this morning. I was there like, I watched it this morning. And then fucking Tommen. There will be no trial by combat. And like a part of me died.
Yeah, I could imagine your expression, just like your face just dropping after he said that.
Like, I've got time for Tommen. I think he's just young and not very clever. And therefore, you know what? I'm done with you. I hope the Hound fucking rips his face apart, peels it, and puts it in the wall at Arya's house or something. Because this is still Tate's fault that I've had now like a season. Because remember, you guys at the start were like, I'd kind of come into, I think, the Game of Thrones reviews late. I didn't have a clear back to Game Boy, and I started researching it. I was there like, this is happening. I was buzzing. Like, I was buzzing all much. I then ripped out my soul by disallowing it.
Here's the thing, right? I'm going to be hopeful, right? I think somehow it's still going to happen. It has to. How much they've set up for it, I think it would be a massive injustice to do this. Like, I know George R. R. Martin is the king of unpredictability, and they've kind of gone past the books, but I think they're taking notes from what he's got planned for the future, so I don't think they get rid of it like that. But, I mean, if George R. R. Martin did that, that's just a massive slap in the face to the readers and people like you who have been hyped up for this for like a season or like a season and a half. But this didn't go to my heart as much as it did to you, because this is the thing with me. When I watch Game of Thrones, I watch it Monday afternoons. Most people kind of watch it live on Sunday nights for us in the UK. So when I wake up, go onto Facebook in the morning, all I see is memes from the previous night that people have done. So I'm kind of already prepared for what's to come. You mentioned that something happens which shoots down hype, and I was thinking, what could it be? Looks like there's a lot of King's Landing stuff, so I thought it would have something to do with that. And then I don't know if Tate outright said it, but I think I saw a picture. It was all hail King Tommen, first of his name, King of the Andals, blah, 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 and destroyer of hype. And I was like, I think I know what this is going to be. So when it happened, it didn't really shock me. It did let me down a bit, but I'm still hopeful that it's going to happen. You've had all this set up with bringing Clegane back. You bring the other brother back. There's more planned for these guys. If it's not going to be in a trial by combat, which I think is a real missed opportunity, it's going to be on a battlefield or something. But I just don't... He doesn't strike me, Gregor Clegane, as a character they want to keep around for much longer. It was like they brought him back for a purpose, Clegane Bowl, and then he was going to get rid of him that. And it would be kind of cool as well, because we've seen Clegane in a trial by combat before with Prince Oberyn, and he won that one, kind of. So it would have been cool to see him in another one and just get his ass absolutely handed to him. It was going to be the fight of the century, and if they don't do that at all now, I'm going to be really annoyed. But they basically say that the trial is going to be done with all the faith that's present there now. There's going to be no trial. It's just going to be them judging Cersei. But even though the hype got shut down, it was kind of worth it just for that moment on her face where she's like, fuck, I've made this zombie for nothing now. This was my plan all along. And it's been shot ahead.
Well, I'm going back to Facebook. So I was in Monaco last week. So I started watching Game of Thrones in the morning. I saw the first scene, which was good enough for me because that meant the spoiler was not spoiled. Then I went out filming and came home, blah, blah, blah. I got a message of Tate at 7:44 a.m. last Monday. Full caps. Oh my FG. It's fucking confirmed. Holy shit. Oh my god. And I didn't finish the episode, but I've worked it out. And obviously at this point, I know I'm going back to the other thing, but the Hound was obviously part of the faith. Like, because the pastor will basically eat McShane. So, you know, he's going to go on a rampage for them, which he did do, and he's going to go back down south to the king's. I thought that could have been a flashback, and it'd be him in the present, maybe, or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then today happened, and I messaged him. I was like, "Everything's been destroyed, Tate." I didn't want to type it because I know you hadn't seen it yet. And then I was just dead.
So would you say this is your least favourite episode because of that moment?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a bad episode. I don't think it was as well. I think it's because of where they took it all last week in the build-up. That you could see the connection too much. But what the Cersei stuff, I'm very intrigued by, because we don't. Obviously, I always knew about the war because I've never read the books. I've always known the key book stories. I knew about Jon Snow dying. I knew Red Wedding. I know the key points. But now we're in this unfamiliar territory. You genuinely don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know what the sentence could be for Cersei. You know what I mean? We could see anything happen. That's good. You could see, in wrestling terms, a clean victory, which would be them just servicing her or whatever they're doing. Or something will kick off, which is more likely now in this show. But I'm very interested now that there's not a trial by combat because it makes it less predictable. Because obviously we spent the whole year building up a trial by combat when really it's the opposite. It's going to be a general court case, I'm guessing.
Well, we've got to think, though, now that Jaime's sort of done all this stuff in Riverrun. He'll be on his way back, probably. So how time passes in this series, we don't really know. But maybe by the time it gets to the trial, because next week it's just going to be pretty much the fight between the Battle of the Boltons. That's the Battle of the Bastards, sorry. That's what we think it's going to be. Just focus on the North stuff. So when episode 10 rolls around, you could kind of infer that a lot of time has passed by then. So maybe... I think the trial is going to be the last episode of this series. I think it kind of has to. I don't think you can drag that into a series 7 and start it off there. It'd be like the last Hobbit film where it starts off with the action climax, which should have been at the end of the other one. It'd be a really weird place to jump into. I think Jaime is going to rock back up to King's Landing with the Lannister army, possibly the Freys as well, and they are going to come to aid. But again, if they kill all the Faith people there, the Faith Militant and the High Sparrow, where's that going to leave King's Landing at the end of this? It's going to leave it in chaos, but maybe that would be an interesting place to leave it when you go into Series 7 and then you've got all this onslaught of characters and factions trying to get the throne. Maybe it'd be a kind of vulnerable spot to have King's Landing at the end of it. Do you think Tommen will die at the end of this series, or do you think he'll continue into the next one?
Oh, it depends.
I think he's got to go. I think he's definitely got to go. I think the fans are now outcrying for him to go. In all honesty, I'm just going to say this. On Facebook, the amount of hate I have seen from my friends that watch Game of Thrones for the character of Tommen right now is at an all-time high. I think there's more hate for this guy right now than there was for Joffrey. When Joffrey went, it was kind of bittersweet.
Joffrey went, I was devastated. Going, more devastated, and Tommen lives. I think he's going to go. I mean, we all know he has to go because of the prediction, and because obviously they're going to swap the throne around a lot. It's like a title battle. You know he's gone. It's either going to be very soon or episode 3, 4 of the next season. But it'd be very interesting to see what happened if what Marjorie does, because obviously she's got her plan in motion.
And we've got to see something with Loras as well. I mean, he's going to be at the trial. We've only seen him in properly in one episode, and I think we saw like a glimpse of him in another one where he was just sort of lying on the floor. You're right, though, and my concern is going to be kind of what this episode was like, how it built up all this stuff, and then it's like the writers go, like, shit, we haven't got enough money or we haven't got enough time to deal with all this, so just kill people off. And I really hope that when we get to 10, it's going to be a really busy episode. Episode 10's usually like, that's probably why they've added the extra running time onto it, the extra 10, 15 minutes, is it, onto the end of it? Yeah. I think it's definitely going to be needed just with the sheer amount of characters you've got to have, because not only have you got to kind of end everything off from what they've set up for the rest of this series, you've also got to kind of set people on a path as to where they're going to be going next series as well. So it's a lot of busy stuff. There's one other thing we can talk about in King's Landing before we move to Marine. Me and you didn't catch what she said here. You had to look it up just a minute ago. There's a scene at the end where Cersei goes up to Qyburn and she asks him about something like, are the rumours true? And he says that my little birds have been bringing me whispers or something. Have you still got that page up to hear what they say?
I don't.
If you can remember what they said.
She says, is it true about the rumours? It's like, basically, my little birds have been investigated, and I'm guessing there's more. I don't think it described what it is, but I'm guessing it's something. I've seen people think it could be wildfire.
See, the fact that, a lot of people
must have been a throwaway line for me to have not noticed, because I pay attention during this. Hardly on the phone during Game of Thrones. Must have been such a little moment.
Well, I was intrigued by it, but the version I was watching, the audio was really bad, and I just didn't catch it. Like, I heard everything up until that point, and then Cersei says something at the end, and I think it was like integral as to where that's going to go, and I completely missed it. I think, in a nutshell, what it was is I think this is tying back to the secret that Tommen told her, because that's probably one of the biggest unanswered questions of this series so far. Earlier on in the series, Tommen came up to her and he says, I've got a secret. I think it was a secret that the High Sparrow had told him. And he told Cersei. I think this is carrying on from that somehow. The reason I don't think the secret's wildfire is because wildfire is a commodity which can be made in King's Landing. It was made in King's Landing with the Battle of Blackwater. The Maesters, we know they've got tons of jars of it. I don't think they used it all at the Blackwater, and I'm sure they could make more after that. The reason that he says his birds have brought in rumours, that shows something spreading geographically. So it's either going to be a character they know is back, but again, it came from the High Sparrow, so it's got to be something inclusive to that bit. So Tate thought, Tate's theory on this was that the High Sparrow knows that the Tyrells had something to do with Joffrey's death. And he told that to Tommen, Tommen's told that to Cersei, and this is all going to the part where we had that kind of uneasy alliance with Lady Olenna in last episode, but we know that Cersei's got an agenda, and she does still want to overthrow the Tyrells. She hates Marjorie. Marjorie knows that Cersei hates her, and there's no love lost between the Lannisters and the Tyrells. So maybe the High Sparrows try to stir shit up with that, and Cersei's trying to keep it all locked together to get rid of the High Sparrow, and then she can bring a plan into action after that. That's if we go with Tate's theory. I personally don't even have a prediction as to what that secret could have been. I'm just sort of along the ride for this one. It's gone past the books. I have no idea what's going on. They've doing some storylines again, but I mean, this is all fresh to me. I'm pretty crap with predictions. Like, I'll predict something and it goes in a completely different direction, especially with the Arya stuff. So maybe at the start of next episode, if Tate's on there, we should get him and ask him what he thought of that, because he will probably be correct with that. Do you have any theories as to what that secret might be or anything like that? Or
I don't think it's the murder of Joffrey, because I think Tommen would have told Cersei that straight away. and I think Tommen would be more personally offended with it being his brother. I think that it is. I've got no idea. I think Tate's one's too wide. I don't think it suits Tommen, although he's a prick. Still his brother.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've kind of moved past the whole Joffrey thing now. I think they're too far past that point now, 2 seasons after it, and his death really doesn't mean much after that now. We've got a new king. Everything seems to be hunky-dory apart from the Faith Militant. I think it's going to be something big, though. Like, I think it is going to be something...
It could be anything from a name drop of Daenerys or dragons, or... It could genuinely be anything, so I'm interested. And could even be something Johnson, could be something Targaryen related. It could be genuinely any.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I have no idea.
I'm guessing that's going to come out in episode.
Yeah, so sorry you lagged there if I was talking over you a bit there. My internet's going really slow. I hope it doesn't drop out. So I've pretty much said everything on King's Landing. Let's move to Meereen. Let's get this done quickly. So we open the scene with Varys leaving Tyrion. Again, another dream team is coming to an end. You can kind of mirror this with Brienne saying bye to Jaime again after they've just got back together. I love the Varys and Tyrion stuff this series, but it kind of did run its course a bit. I think like Tyrion's got a firm footing of the place now, and I think that Varys was just kind of a baggage character at this point. Like, don't get me wrong, he's great to watch. He had one of the best monologues this season a couple of episodes ago, but his character isn't really doing much. He's kind of just there with the people, and I think that Tyrion has enough people around him in this episode, like with Missandei, Grey Worm, and then when Daenerys comes back at the end. What Varys has planned, I'm not really sure. He's going over to Essos to do something, to converse with someone, to bring someone back or something back. You think it might be some tie-in with the Greyjoy stuff, though, right?
Yeah, I think Varys, it's... I know what you're saying about Meereen. I don't think it suits him in the sense that he is the knowledge. He's so much like Littlefinger. He could, now I've just said Littlefinger, he could even be collaborating with an old friend, maybe. Trying to align 2 houses, maybe. You never know. I doubt it, to be fair, because Daenerys is a twat who would probably try and kill the Starks. But I think he's just going to be trying to get recruitments. But that's why I think it works. Because obviously, I always forget his name. Owen, the Greyjoy.
Oh, Euron.
Euron.
Yeah.
I think Euron now he's. Basically, when the ships come in today, because of the whole Game of Thrones transporting thing, I thought they were Euron ships already.
Yeah, no, so did I.
And I was there like, oh, he's built that quick compared... Although there's an island with no... There's a meme on this, it's like there's an island with no trees, but they're building... And then someone like Jack Square's face was like sea turtles.
Yeah.
But it was really bizarre, the marine stuff. I know I'm jumping the boat. I'm a bit bored of it. It's
marine stuff.
You've always hated the Daenerys stuff, and I was always interested in. I got really bored when she went back to the Dothraki this season. I know some of the others have liked it, but like Tyrion's kind of making the wrong decision, which I don't like because he's such a wise character, and I know he's out of his depth. He's somewhere new, but it's kind of like, come on, come back to King's Landing because you're wasting.
It's an environment that doesn't suit him. I've always thought that. In the book, he hasn't even got to Meereen, I don't think, in the book. He's just sort of like been dicking around on the ship, but it's been the same principle where he's in this part of the world where it's a character we're not used to seeing there. Like Daenerys being in that place, that makes sense. All that Dothraki stuff, that makes sense. But Tyrion, seeing him there, it's really strange. And I don't buy this guy taking control of Meereen and all this stuff. To be honest, I've always thought this with the books as well. Just cut all that stuff out. You really don't need all the Daenerys stuff. Like, you can have dragons in it and things like that, but all the stuff in King's Landing and the actual main part of the map is so much more interesting. And I think there's still enough plot to tell there. Don't get me wrong, though. It was kind of cool seeing Tyrion now. He's back to his jokey self again. The scene with Missandei and Grey Worm was really awkward. None of the jokes were particularly funny, but I thought it was some nice character moment.
Funny.
Sorry?
The drowning one of the languages I thought was funny, but it didn't really work for the show.
No, the delivery was kind of weird on it, and I guess that was the idea of it because they're very awkward characters.
I'm just
I
bored.
do like how Tyrion's broke them down a bit though. Like he's finally got them drinking, he's finally got them telling jokes and coming out the shell a bit more. I liked that. And the callback to the line from series 1 was amazing. And I thought that was a fantastic place where they cut it off, where he's just about to go into his whole anecdote about once he bought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel. It got cut short in series 1 because I think it was at the Vale, and Robin, or what was it, Lysa, like cut him off. And in this one, the slavers show up again, the Masters, and start causing havoc on the city. So once again, his story gets cut short. Will we ever find out what he did with that jackass and the honeycomb? In the comment section, get your predictions going, what he did with that. I have an idea, but it's a bit gross.
I don't get why the Masters were attacking. If they've come to claim their slaves back, who they've got an agreement they can for 7 years, they're trying to kill them all.
That's a good point. That is a great point. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I didn't get it. I was just there like, okay, come on, back to King's Landing. Back to the north. We are getting the north next week, but I'm just really bored of Daenerys now. And I think it's just the wait where it's, at least the White Walkers are progressing.
Yeah, that stuff's really, really progressed this series. That stuff's good. And, you know, we got it mentioned again in this episode. Like, they're definitely playing up the threat of that. But this whole threat of Daenerys with the dragons, I'm just really, really not buying it. And you're right with that whole Masters thing. I completely forgot about that they had that, what was it, 5 or 7 year agreement. Because they don't strike me that they'd want to take Meereen for themselves and like run it themselves again. Maybe that's it and they want to kind of overthrow it. But I don't know. It just seems to have come right the hell out of nowhere. It's not really needed. It just seems like it's a big action beat where we need Daenerys back to be the Messiah and to save the day again and to take back Meereen and all this stuff with a Dothraki and a dragons. And also it's going to be really, really super fucking convenient, isn't it, now I think about it? Because she's going to kill all these Masters and, oh, look, she's got thousands of ships there that she can now have and sail to Westeros on them. It's just so easy. It's just so trite. And is this going to lead into like a big action scene in the next series where Euron shows up and we're going to get some Pirates of the Caribbean style Maelstrom ship-to-ship action? I mean, that would be cool, but I mean, I just thought about that now that she's going to have all these ships. It's just so easy. They just showed up on a doorstep. She's just showed up on her own doorstep out of nowhere. We get like a brief silhouette of Drogon. We haven't seen a Dothraki anywhere. We haven't seen Dario anywhere. Where they are, I have no idea. In episode 10, do you think we're going to get another battle scene with all this? Or do you think it will be, because they'll have used all their budget on episode 9, do you think it'll be like another off-camera kind of thing like they usually do?
Drogon, I'm giving my bets that Drogon's just going to fly past and set them all on fire, then that's her story finished for another year.
But if she burns them all, then she's just ruined her ships. Like, that strikes me as something...
That's true. She might want them ships, actually. But she's got to kick off at Tyrion because he's allowing the stays, and her things just come to a drama that doesn't suit the show. And I do like her character, I know you don't, but it's going stale. There's just nothing is happening. Whether or not
I think the character could be compelling. It's just that I don't like how Emilia Clarke plays her, because she just always plays a one note. Every emotion's the same.
I just don't get their plan with it. I mean, there is a plan, but it just looks... The White Walkers, everyone say the piss, but oh, look, why aren't they here yet? But you've genuinely seen them move, and you've seen them do things where I've got another army, but I'm nowhere. Oh, just take us somewhere else. Like, you've seen stuff happening everywhere else, and hers is the same. I feel like it's going to be really cheap when the time does come that she does get to Westeros.
No joke. Every time it cuts to one of her scenes, or even a Tyrion scene now, and I never thought I'd say this with Tyrion, I do let out like an audible sigh every time. If I'm going to compare this to Lord of the Rings now, I've said on record that those films are just perfect in my eyes, and they still are. But it's kind of like how in Two Towers you've got the epic Battle of Helm's Deep, and then it keeps cutting back to Treebeard, and you just really, really don't give a shit about that stuff. It's kind of like how I felt towards that. Like, you've got all this great stuff happening, and then you keep cutting back to this character that you really don't care about, that's just hogging screen time, and you just want to get back to the good stuff. That's how I feel every time with Daenerys and Meereen and stuff. As I said, that being said, that I did like the awkward interaction with Tyrion, Missandei, and Grey Worm. I think that was nice that we get a little bit of character moment with them. Even though I don't really care about their characters, it was kind of nice seeing that. Shall we move to the final bit then of this series? Let's talk about some Bravos, because this is, I think geographically, usually Marines last, but because there wasn't really much to talk about, we thought we'd save Arya's stuff till last. She's one of the biggest prominent characters in this series, all the stuff that's been building up to her. I was really looking forward to seeing how this was going to play out. I don't think this is going to be a last series, her last scene of the series. I think there's going to be another one in episode 10, but this was kind of the big finale of it all.
Yeah.
I'm going to get your opinion on this one first, because I know you've said that you've pretty much hated every single Arya scene we've had this series. So just kind of go into your opinions, and then we'll take the discussion from there.
It's the best Terminator film we've seen in a few years. Probably
starring another Game of Thrones character.
This is the best Terminator film of the century, isn't it? So we've finally seen the confront. Actually, that's skipping too far. I've really liked the Lady Crane stuff in the play. I'll give them credit. The play stuff I've loved because it's a little recap. It's quite jokey. But I liked where Arya manned up and saved her. And what pissed me off today is Lady Crane took her in, which was great. She's been stabbed repetitively in the stomach, like Rob Stark's missus. She fell into the river. She's fine. She went to sleep for a day or two. She come back with magic powers. So, okay. Lady Crane was a very interesting death because she had to die, and they still carry through. But I like it when they do it. It's like Hunger Games. Spoiler, but it's crap anyway. Hunger Games exists because she saves Prim, but Prim dies at the end. And I love that it's natural. It has to happen. And I like to do this with Lady Crane because it's a learning curve for Arya. And it was so obvious, and it was a pretty nasty death in itself. I mean, me and you both discussed kind of how. I'm guessing she had legs put through on the chair or something.
Yeah, it was really weird how they filmed it. Because you hear like a thud, like a really, really loud, sharp thud, and then she goes into the room and you see a body on the floor, and it's like two chair legs at the side of her, but it doesn't look like they've gone through it. It looks like they're just at the side of her. So I was like, has she like slammed her just like really hard into the chair and it's broke the chair? Or has the chair gone into... I still don't know. I'm going to have to watch this episode again and like pause it at that bit. It did look brutal though, whatever it was. But you're right about that stuff. She got stabbed like 10 times in the stomach. And if you don't just bleed out from that, which you would, you'd have internal bleeding from all your organs. And then also we've got to think about the kind of days that this is set in with infection and stuff. So she falls into that water, which is probably full of just fecal matter and all manner of horrible bodily fluids, goes through a dirty street into a dirty room, doesn't clean the wound or anything, and she's perfectly fine. She's just patched up instantly. I guess Lady Crane just slapped some milk of the poppy on that bitch and she's fine.
And she's fine to run around minutes after as well.
Yeah.
Chasing through the streets like Assassin's Creed.
And it was like Assassin's Creed. I'm going to come to that later with the running. It was like cross between Terminator 2, Inception, and Assassin's Creed. Yeah. But with that thing, like we talked about all the other characters and the passage of time, like we don't really know how long it is between episodes. With the other stuff, I think it gets away with it. You can kind of say this has been a couple of days, this has been a week, this has been a month here and there. With this Arya stuff, though, this struck me as happening like the next day, like straight after where we saw it end last time. And I think that was too short, especially how quickly she's patched up. And we're all talking about this theory as well, and I think Tate was, because there was a leaked picture from this episode, and I don't actually know if the shot made it into the episode.
Because it wasn't a leaked picture, it was an official one HBO did. So
this was like a straight-up Punisher moment with the Gatling gun. This was a straight-up moment like that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I always forget his name, the hero.
Jaqen H'ghar.
Huh?
Was it Jaqen H'ghar?
No. It's it was the silhouette of Thingy Bob, season 1 God.
Stereo Pharrell?
There's a silhouette of him behind.
Oh shit! That wasn't the silhouette, was it?
It basically worked. He had his hairline, had his shoulder pads and everything. So
I didn't see that.
It's in the whole of the chase, looking out for him, and it didn't happen. And then it got to the end. I know I'm jumping really far ahead. When Jaqen H'ghar smiles, happy to Arya Stark, which is a bit bizarre. I thought that he would suddenly become
right. Oh man!
I thought he would become him, but he never did. But it made no sense why he'd smile and let it get away with it though.
Imagine that. That would have been fucking insane to end that shot on that.
Because it had been exactly like episode 1 with Old Lady.
Yeah.
That's a nicer version. and a smarter version, but it didn't.
Fuck no, I'm really pissed off with that now too. Like I saw the picture, but it just looked like a silhouette, like a mystery figure, like was coming behind her, ready to kill her. Well, if that was an official image, they had to have filmed that and like had that in the episode ready to go. Because if that came out like that, there was another picture as well, which actually this might be some episode 10 stuff. Did you see the Tyrion one? I won't go into details if you haven't.
For episode 10.
I think so, yeah, but it came out a couple of weeks ago. I thought it was going to be in last week's episode, but it wasn't, and it wasn't in today's, and it won't be in next week, so it'll probably be episode 10.
Tell me if you want.
There's a shot with like Tyrion gagged with rope tied around him, like he's being kidnapped.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that. That's very bizarre.
So now I've seen this one. Well, actually, Daenerys has showed up, so again, that's probably something else they've cut out. I thought the Masters were going to get there and kidnap him, and then take him away again. I don't know. You can search for it. I think, like, if you go onto like leaked pictures and stuff, wherever that Arya one was, there was a bunch of them that came out, and I saw the Tyrion one. Was really looking forward to that one because I didn't know where that was going. And then you're right with that Arya one. I thought it was Jack and Hagar behind, because it was behind the waif, wasn't it? The silhouette, I think. And I thought that
the silhouette was behind Arya.
Oh, was it? I thought it was behind the waif. I thought it was a moment where like the waif was going to close in on Arya, and then this figure was coming behind her, ready to kill her. But that's really, really, really pissed me off now. If they filmed all that stuff with Syrio back, I mean, I like it that his death is still ambiguous. But imagine that, like, if he comes back, because it still might not have been him. Like, he may have died, and they may have just got hold of his face somehow. Like, it may still not be that character. But that's really, really annoying me now. And this. Again, I didn't hate this episode. I didn't. I thought it was an enjoyable episode, but this Arya stuff was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me on this one. I handled the Blackfish stuff. That's just typical Game of Thrones thing where they'll kill characters off screen or there'll be a battle off screen. This annoyed me because we've spent so much time with Arya, and it's not just been this series, it's been all the other series leading up to this. We have this big confrontation where she goes to Braavos and she wants to learn the ways of the Faceless Men and gain the power. And then after she's done that, we get the sense that after she's done that, she probably will go back to Westeros. So we go through all this thing with the waif, and I really don't like how they kind of made her just like Arya's villain for this series. Like, I thought it was progressing to something more than that. The training was great and everything like that. So we get to the end of this episode, and I know we're jumping around the place, and we'll go back to the waif in a minute. She goes to Jack and Hagar, and she goes, I am Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going back to Winterfell. And he smiles, and we don't know if it's a smile like, yeah, right, or if it's just a, yeah, you know who you are now. This was all a test, so you could admit this. But it felt like to me that my mind's so scattered on this. Like, you could argue that this was necessary. Like, she had to go through all this stuff in Braavos to know concrete in her mind who she was. She was Arya Stark, and she's got to go back to save her family. But on the other hand, you go through all this where she wants to train to be a faceless assassin, and her character really hasn't accomplished anything. Like, she's gone on all this journey to arrive at the same point she was in, like, Series 1 or Series 2. And that really, really annoys me that 6 seasons in, her character is now regret. It feels like Sansa's character in Series 5. Like, there was all this great build-up, and then she went straight back to how she was. So I'm really, really torn on this episode. I guess it's going to be, we always say this with all the characters, it's going to depend on where the destination is. Like, if they've got a plan, fair enough, but she's just Arya with Needle again now. She hasn't learned the faceless powers. She hasn't mastered the face or anything. What has she accomplished?
What I'm hoping is that she takes the faceless thing. She goes over to the north. She gets to House Bolton after he has savaged the Stark clan, and she thinks she's about to kill Ramsay Bolton, and then the joke's on her, and he skins her and melts her. And then he heads south, takes the Iron Throne, and just Game of Thrones finishes. He sees the dragon, he gets on the dragon, he burns Daenerys to a crisp. You just imagine a world of Ramsay Snow as the leader. I mean, it's a great meme, right? I've got a shout out to one of my friends who I showed this meme to. It was to Grace, if you're watching, which you're not. But anyway, there's this brilliant, brilliant, brilliant meme today, which I sent. I'm looking for it now. And basically, it's a picture of Ramsay Snow and his mum. Sorry, not his mum. Yes, his mum-in-law. Here we go. Ramsay Bolton's daycare. What is dead may never cry.
You're right though. Me and you love all the complete, just absolute despicable bastards in this series. I love Ramsay to death, and I know he is going in the next episode, and that hasn't quite sunk in for me yet. And I don't think it will until I'm getting towards like the last 10 minutes of the episode.
I'm gonna be devastated with this, if he survives.
If he survives, that will be a really ballsy move, and I would love to see him back in Series 7, but I don't think he's going to make it to the end. I'll tell you what would be amazing, though, if, like, when they've finally done the very last series of Game of Thrones, if there was an option on the Blu-ray where it almost, like, rewrites the whole story. It's like, pick who you want to see on the throne at the end, and you've got, like, a huge character grid, like Capcom versus Marvel or something. Yeah. And you just, like, go, I want to see Ramsay take the throne. You watch the episode, it plays out where he gets it at the end. That would be awesome. Bringing it back to the Arya, you go into the Arya stuff more because what did you think? Do you think a plan?
You were cool when you were with the Hound, and you were like a feisty little girl. You're a bit different. You're a bit of a tomboy, and it's got to a stage where I can't. The only thing I remember was season 2 because I did it in a day. The season is a blur. I think I said to you that I don't remember Blackwater except the shit. But I remember bits of it.
Yeah,
and. Was she pretending to be a boy that season or something? I just
series 2 was the one where she was going to go to the wall and she disguised and she was on the wagon, and that's where oh my god, I forgot his name. Oh, the guy who was like the bloke at the Night's Watch. They get ambushed by the Lannisters. She gets taken prisoner at Harrenhal.
Oh, that's right, I remember now. Yeah,
Harrenhal. And then I'm trying to think what happens after that. Like my memory is really, really hazy.
You know what I mean? It was. I don't think her character. She's someone that had so much hype, and she's going to become an assassin. That great ending of Bravos, and it's going to be her being an assassin. I get that, and I just think they've stifled the progression. Her last season to be blind for an episode. 2 episodes. What was the point? And I didn't feel like she's learned anything.
That's the problem.
I'm sorry, she can fight in the dark. She fought one person in the dark and won because she had a sword and a knife.
There you go. That's what all the blind training was about. That one moment that happened off screen. And
it's such a weird one because I don't like slagging off this show. It's probably one of the best shows on TV, but her followed by Daenerys is probably the worst thing we could have had because they're just the 2 boring storylines. When they started out as 2 of my more interesting ones. It's now completely shifted. I used to hate the Jon Snow stuff, but they actually executed that well across. Season 1 was a bit slow with Jon Snow. Season 2, then they executed it well, introducing the wildlings. Bran, to his credit's become interesting now. The battle for the North is interesting. King's Landing's always been interesting, and they've kind of stifled the others. I don't think they've caught up to the rest, and it's a shame. But I do want it to get back now because they're having a little Stark reunion, man, and Ramsay needs to slaughter.
See, no, I'm going to argue against you there a bit. Like I've always hated Daenerys, even in the book. Her character's more interesting in the book, though. She's a bit better written in the book. I've always loved the Arya stuff, and I have loved the Arya stuff in this series up until this episode, and I was loving it this episode. But then just like all these things that pan out, and with all the hype, and then it just kind of dies out. I loved all the blind training stuff. I thought that was fantastic. I've said this before on all the other shows that I love to see characters in training where you've got like your Luke Skywalker on Dagobah in Empire training up to be a Jedi, Daredevil training up as a kid with stick, all that kind of stuff I absolutely love. And it was kind of that moment for me. It was very Daredevilish actually with Arya in this series when she was blind and she was fighting with a stick and everything. And I was hoping that was going to pan out. And you did almost need that boss fight moment where Arya squares off with the Waif. I said a minute ago that I don't like how they made the Waif like the bad guy that she was going after. But I felt like it was a cop-out to cut that off screen. It was a cool effect where she cuts the candle and it's all darkness. And I was thinking, this is going to be like a Dark Knight Rises moment where she's like, oh, you think darkness is your ally? And it was going to be this great... You could have done it all with like a pitch black screen. I think that would have been really effective. Even if it was just a few seconds long. But the fact that you don't see it really, really annoyed me. And maybe this was just my dark, twisted mind afterwards, but I knew that she was going to present the face to Jaqen H'ghar. I didn't know it was going to be on the podium right there. I thought Arya was just going to walk into the room with like a bloody dripping needle, and like her face just in her other hand, like Jason Voorhees or something from Friday the 13th. Especially when you got that blood trail along the floor.
It was a cool reveal, but you always knew it wasn't Arya that was going to be dead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You always knew Arya was going to survive, so the blood trail was a bit pointless because you know it's the wave, and it feels like the kind of ending her arc there. I know they're going to do more stuff with her, but it's just if she's done and dusted now, just get her back on a boat. I hope she's got another coin that can magically transport there as well.
Yeah. I just hope this has made me concerned for the book now a bit, because I know they're doing their own thing, but sort of when you kill off Stannis, for example, and Stannis is still alive in the book, as a book reader, you kind of are like, well, that must mean that his character doesn't have anything to do in like the grand scheme of things, and that's made me concerned for the Arya stuff now as well. Like, I hope in the book there's a bit more of like she learns something more from it, or there's a theme, or she gains a power, or something like that. Maybe the entire last book is going to be completely different, and Stannis will be leading another charge on King's Landing with Wildfire himself in the book. I have no idea. This stuff kind of annoyed me. We've talked about how she's like T-1000. I did think that stuff was shot really well, though. Like, from a filming standpoint, I thought the whole street run was fantastic. How, like, it was almost like I was playing Assassin's Creed. Like, I had an imaginary controller in my hand, and, like, the convenient cart just, like, pulls out into the street with the patch underneath it. I was like, right, skid underneath it. Right now, run over the top of that. But it kind of goes back to that bit again that we were talking about with Arya. Like, she's been stabbed 10 times. She's been patched up. She would have, like, just stitches all across the abdomen area. And she's doing all this cool stuff. She starts bleeding again, but apparently she's still fine again at the end. That was just a really weird inconsistency. Felt like a rewrite to me, in all honesty. Like, if they were going to do this Syrio Pharrell stuff, maybe they changed their mind at the last minute. Didn't want to put that in there. So yeah, in short, just with the Arya stuff, I was really, really let down by it. If that is the last we see of Jaqen H'ghar, I think that's a really just slap in the face to that character. Kind of an uneasy goodbye. Like, we don't know if he agrees with her decision, if this was what he planned. I thought he was going to be like Grandmaster Yoda, and he was going to have this huge plan for her at the end, like he was training her up all the way. Loads of Star Wars references on this. It's Cinema Savvy. What do you expect? We love Star Wars. But it didn't really boil down to anything. That's pretty much all I can say on the Arya stuff. I hope we get a scene with her in episode 10, so we can start getting back to what she's going to do now. She knows she's Arya Stark. Is she still going to have a kill list? Will she still have any kind of face-changing powers? Will Jaqen H'ghar show up again at the end? I don't know. I guess we'll go into final thoughts on the episode now. So, George, if you want to give your final thoughts, I'll give mine, and then we'll wrap up for today's show.
Not the best episode of the season. Not a bad episode. I've slagged it off a lot. Give me episode 9. That's the best I can say. Actually, criticism: lack of North. I know that they're going to have an hour themselves, but I expected a build-up still. Yeah, that's what.
We're going to get build-up in the next episode, because it would be kind of weird to just jump straight into the armies charging at each other from the off. But yeah, it was kind of weird, especially because episode 9 is going to be a big episode. For me, if I'm going to put my thoughts into one sentence, character trumped plot in this episode for me. Lovely little bits of character interactions with like Brienne and Jaime, Bronn and Pod, and things like that. It was nice to see that. The Tyrion, Missandei and Grey Worm scene was kind of nice too. But the actual plot and where plot lines went, especially with the River Run stuff and the Bravos stuff and the absolute hype killer that was King Tom and Baratheon, that really, really annoyed me. So it is probably my least favourite episode of the series so far. I'm going to have to go back and watch this whole entire series again, because I do think this series has been really strong. Wasn't a bad episode, but I don't know, it felt missing. It felt like they really didn't know what they were doing with these plot lines, and they kind of just haphazardly threw it together. So that was our final thoughts on the episode. No one, be sure to comment, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the episode. Did you think differently to us? Did you think that the Arya stuff was actually good? Whatever it is, Game of Thrones related, please do drop us a comment. We'll try to reply to all you guys' comments. In terms of what's coming up on the channel, we'll be getting back to film reviews this week. The Conjuring 2 is out. I cannot wait for that. I'm a huge horror fan. Waiting for a good horror film. I've seen some really bad ones this year so far, and The Conjuring is one of my favorites, so I will be there for that this week. So probably check out a review for that later on in the week. There'll be reactions along the way. I've just done one to the Moana trailer today. You can check that out if you check out our previous videos. Whenever new trailers come out, I'll always try and jump on for one for that. And we will be back next week on Monday, probably again. We're a day earlier on this one. We'll probably be a day earlier next week for the event of the century now that Clegane Bowl probably won't be a thing. The Battle of the Bastards is next week. We're looking forward to it. I'm on Team Ramsay. Let us know, are you on Team Jon Snow or Team Ramsay? That's going to be a good one, and I cannot wait. The promo was insane. So that'll do it for us tonight. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.